Good old WCW, still one of the most talked about wrestling companies of all time, despite going out of business almost 2 decades ago, largely on account of the many failures that plagued its latter years. While WCW was responsible for countless classic moments, it also embarrassed itself with so many daft booking and business moves that its legacy is forever poisoned. Today, we're going to pivot away from things like the finger poke of doom and the doomsday cage to focus on one major WCW creative failing that doesn't really get talked about enough: their propensity to just abandon a storyline with no explanation. So go ahead and pour one out for these old storylines, each of which was abandoned, forgotten about, or a healthy combo of both. I'm Andy for What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 mysteries that WCW never explained. Number 10. The Nasty Boys and the NWO. The NWO's early days saw the faction being courted by the Nasty Boys, leading to the Super Stable eventually relenting and allowing Knobs and Sags into the group, before promptly beating them down in less time than it would have taken the Nasties to pull one of those famous shirts over their big greasy heads. Sags and Knobs entered a program with WCW Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. The whole thing went a bit wrong when Sags was hit in the back of the head just a little harder than he'd have liked. He assumed it was Hall, and thus he beat the tits out of the bad guy, leading, and this should surprise nobody, to him getting fired by WCW. Now, Brian Knobbs was fortunate enough to be able to keep his job because he was buddies with Hulk Hogan, but the incident was never even mentioned in WCW again. So, would the Nasty Boys have won the belts in the end? It's a mystery, my friends. Number 9. Hogan does the job. At Halloween Havoc 98, Hulk Hogan was scheduled to face Sting for the world title. 2 years after getting it wrong the first time around, WCW was still trying, bless them, but what the fans got was even less satisfying than the terrible original. For whatever reason, instead of competing, Hogan just kinda decided to lie down for the stinger. There was no double cross, there was nothing. Sting just pinned Hogan for the victory. So why would Hogan do this? What was the motivation behind his actions? Surely we'd find something out the next night on Nitro, right? Nope. Instead, Sting was stripped of the belt and a new tournament was held to determine a new champion because... reasons? Number 8. Team Piper. Heading into Uncensored 97, a war threatening to rip WCW apart was in full flow. On one side was the NWO, the virus that was slowly but surely killing the promotion, and on the other, it was Team WCW, defending the honour of the proud company. Then, to round things off, you had, well, Team Piper. But who would Rowdy Roddy Piper be joined by in his unit? He was supposed to recruit 3 teammates, and people were fired up about this because, hey, it's Piper. But they really wouldn't have been had they known how things would pan out, as in one of the worst Nitro segments ever, Piper held tryouts, and he eventually revealed John Tenta, kickboxer Leighton Morrison, and boxer Craig Malley as his teammates. And if that wasn't weird enough, the trio were replaced by Chris Benoit, Steve McMichael, and Jeff Jarrett just 1 week after the tryouts. Now, that is a clear upgrade in terms of wrestling, sure, but if they were just going to replace them, what was the point of the original team in the first place? And what did WCW exactly plan on doing with Malley and Morrison? Who the hell knows, friends? Number 7. Anytime, any place, any title. After winning the match I've just spoken about, the NWO were allowed to challenge for any title at any time in any place. Almost like a proto Money in the Bank, except everything was done on a whim. But unfortunately, WCW changed their mind. The idea was dropped after just a single title challenge and was never spoken of again. And if you remember that challenge from Randy Savage to TV champion Prince Iaukea, you're a better man than me. Rumour had it that Team Piper was supposed to win the uncensored main event, but somebody on creative felt it would be better if Hogan and his pals won instead, and gee, I wonder who that was. Number 6. The Giant falls to his death. In the pantheon of WCW moments that were so bad they're amazing, the Giant seemingly falling to his death at Halloween Havoc 95 is an all-timer. And as if the fall itself wasn't dumb enough, it happened after a bloody monster truck sumo match between the Giant and Hulk Hogan. and it was held on top of the building's roof. The whole thing was mental, but it was my kind of mental. And the Hulkster won his duel, and the old giant, well, he wasn't best pleased about it, so he left his truck to beat the piss out of Hogan, and yeah, that didn't work out too well for him. Hulk weakened the giant enough to lob him off the roof, which is crazy enough, and the implication was that he'd at least been gravely injured by the fall. So, how did WCW follow up on this? By having the future Big Show march out for his world title match in the main event with Hogan without as much as a single hair out of place. So how the hell did he survive this fall? Well, we were told to tune into Nitro to find out, but we were never told. And that is the unsolved mystery. Presumably, the Dungeon of Doom caught him with some kind of spooky magic. Also, remember, this was the same night the goddamn Yeti debuted in WCW. Now, I have nothing to add to that, I just wanted to say Yeti on a video. Yeti! Number 5, the TV title and trash cans. You probably remember Medusa throwing the old WWE Women's Championship in the bin after crossing over to WCW back in the day. But how about the time WCW gave the TV title the same treatment in 99? Yes, I'm talking about the same belt made famous by Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard and other legends, and it was thrown away like an empty bag of M&Ms. Who committed this heinous crime? Well, it was Scott Hall. He threw the television title in the bin in Denver, Colorado, and honestly, WCW probably should have had a harder thought about who was looking after their trash at the time, because Hacksaw Jim Duggan found it in another bin 3 months later in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. If you don't have a map handy, that's 1,700 miles away from Denver. Now, the belt was retired less than 2 months later, but like, what? Number 4, DDP's benefactor. DDP was in a bad way in 96. He was at rock bottom after losing a loser leaves town match to Johnny B. Bad and being banished from WCW altogether, leading to vignettes showing him moping around and hustling on the streets just to get by. Now, the vignettes may have been going somewhere, but they did not. DDP returned to the ring out of nowhere and seemed to have left his financial woes behind him. The slow burn to redemption was gone and replaced by jackets so sparkly they'd make Adam Cleary blush, and a whole lot of swagger. Page was back, and all thanks to an unknown benefactor. Damn rich one at that. So was the mystery benefactor ever revealed? Were they bollocks? Number 3, the White Hummer. With the then WWF leaving them way behind in the Monday Night Wars, WCW was looking pretty wobbly when this whole thing went down. Hell, you couldn't even really call them wars anymore because the battle was much closer to something like Simon Miller arm wrestling James Ellsworth. In an attempt at resurrecting the company, WCW felt that the way to go would be introducing something of a whodunit angle involving some of their top stars. This started when Randy Savage's ladies, Gorgeous George and Miss Madness, lured Kevin Nash into a limo, only to get out, allowing Savage to speed off. At this point, Macho Man parks the limo and a mysterious white Hummer rams into the side of it. Savage went on to claim that he was about to unveil a new bodyguard, think of a proto-Wardlow of sorts. But of course, this never happened. Fast forward 8 months and a severe sense of deja vu as Hulk Hogan's limo was smashed up by the same white Hummer. This time, however, the driver was revealed, and it turns out it was Rikishi. Wait, sorry, no, it was Eric Bischoff. Maybe. It was never really confirmed, but the assumption was that Bischoff had rammed Nash while driving the white Hummer 8 months earlier, although by the time he was revealed, he had just helped Nash to win the world title. It's no wonder they technically left it unresolved. Number 2, Ric Flair gets buried in the desert. I had successfully been able to remove this from my brain in a procedure that was not unlike that in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but here we are. Ric Flair was buried in the Las Vegas desert. The filthy animals were the perpetrators as they kidnapped Nature Boy and took him off to the middle of nowhere, eventually showing footage of the burial. Now, Flair came back several months later with no explanation of how he'd escaped this perilous situation. One can only assume that he pulled some kind of Anthony Britton-ish here, but there was no clarification. It was never explained. Flair, of course, well, he questioned the creative team on this, asking just how to explain to the audience how he'd avoided an early death 6 feet below the Las Vegas sands. And the reply, we're not going to worry about that, which kind of sums up their business in general. And at number 1, Baby Doll blackmails Dusty Rhodes. In 1988, Larry Zbyszko was accompanied to the ring by Baby Doll, who I can only assume Ty Dillinger is a big fan of, as she had the nickname The Perfect 10. The two were feuding with Dusty Rhodes at the time, but this one was a little bit different, as Baby Doll claimed to have incriminating photos of the son of a plumber. Baby Doll even went as far as showing Dream the photos, and he replied with a whole bunch of sadness and not a small amount of, "Oh Lord, I'm in trouble here." Baby Doll had Rhodes by his Dusties. So what were these photos? What did Baby Doll want from this blackmailing? Well, guess what? We never found out. The angle was dropped, forgotten about, and abandoned, and to this day, we still don't know what the photos showed. Was Dusty the driver of the White Hummer? Did he save Ric Flair from death in the desert? Did the American Dream salvage the WCW TV title from the bins of Denver? Maybe he was DDP's benefactor and managed to save the Giant from falling to his death in 1995. Friends, we'll never know. We'll simply never know. So that's our list, but what do you guys think? And can you think of any other storylines that WCW just straight up abandoned? Let us know down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Then you can follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE and myself at Andy H. Murray if you want to tell me how much I look like Ralphus. Goodbye.